Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and this is Arrow Discussions.
No, you're not. You're Eric.
Oh. But you always get to do it. I thought it would be fun.
Well, that's cool. But just a little pointer, Eric. Next time you do that, you should probably open it with your own name.
But it's so, like, I don't know. Your name is just part of that statement, so...
Oh, so you can't say, like, I'm Eric. You have to say, I'm Captain Logan?
Yeah. Anytime anyone ever says, hello, everyone, I'm always, like, waiting for them to say, I'm Captain Logan.
Now, I guess the only way we could possibly do that would be if you went, hello, everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and I said, and you're Eric. Well, today on Arrow Discussions, we're going to talk about Arrow Episode 11, and the title is Trust But Verify.
Can I ask a question about the title, like, immediately?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Because they say... in the episode, it's the old adage, trust but verify. Have you ever heard that before? Because I've never heard it before.
I can't say that as an old adage I've ever really heard that before. I mean, just as a notion. I mean, sure, it's something that I've heard people talk about. Yeah, I mean, you trust people, but then you make sure. Okay, but yeah, not in that phraseology, huh?
Yeah, I've never heard it before either. I was just double checking.
I should have said phrasing. I'm not sure phraseology is a word. Anyway.
It is now. I prefer my reading of it when I just glanced over the title. I thought it was Trust But Verily. And I thought it was going to be awesome. But I guess not.
I don't know. If it's not an old adage, it seems like it ought to be. It certainly makes sense. Is this the only episode so far that we've really had an episode title name drop like that?
I believe so.
Because there's a big scene about 10 minutes in where Oliver's mother name drops it, and I was like, oh, we're going kind of Star Trek on this, aren't we?
See, I think they did this just because Never Look a Gift Horse in the Mouth isn't as good as an episode title.
Fair enough.
Because I think it's the same sentiment.
It is certainly a similar sentiment, although it's a little bit different in that it plays in two ways, and this is a good way to jump into our discussion, because that's definitely the case with Diggle and Gaynor at the end, where you find out that oh yeah, he actually was the bad guy and should have been on the list. But then you've also got a lot of trust things going back and forth with everybody. Although now that I'm kind of thinking about this and reasoning it out, everybody who distrusts somebody in this episode is ultimately right, now that I think about it.
Right.
Aren't they? So you're right, it is the same sentiment. Because I mean, Merlin is right. His dad was being deceitful, and
Oliver's right.
And Oliver's right, and Oliver's sister is right, although she's not right about what she thinks she's right about.
Actually, the only person that's wrong is Diggle, because he does trust somebody.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And he vaguely, like, doesn't trust Oliver in that the list is always right, but that's only because he doesn't trust the source, the information. I mean, he doesn't think Oliver's doing anything deceitful. He just doesn't trust the source of the writing of the book. Right. So that makes sense. By the way, I loved the ending with him where Oliver hands him the book and has him cross off the name, and then he says, "I don't want to know who's in this book until we go after him."
Right.
All of that was great. Let me say that I thought this was another really solid episode.
I agree. Actually, the first thing I want to talk about is something that I don't think we've actually talked about at all on this series.
Okay.
Because as the show opened and the credits were rolling, I had this thought where because it goes written by Gabriel Stanton and then it goes directed by Nick Kopis. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, that makes sense in film because directors are such a big part of film, but I feel like on television, the writer should be the last name you see because directors really just keep everything in line with how every other episode has looked.
Good point.
And then I felt like this was the best directed episode we've had yet because this is the best the action has looked in the entire series.
Oh, it looked great. I would say this was almost movie quality action.
The shot where he shoots the mask off the dude was awesome. Yeah. And then there's like a slow-mo, like he jumps off a truck and shoots his arrow, and that looked cool. Like the action in this, I was going to mention that
when he jumped slow motion like that, I thought it was really cool how they kind of subverted our expectations with the filming because I thought he was just going to come down and do a drop kick.
Right.
and then he shoots an arrow, and I was like, that looks great. That's the sort of stuff you want if you're going to make Green Arrow a live-action TV show, right?
Absolutely. It looked like a comic book panel.
It did, and but I even thought, like, the blowing up the armored car at the beginning looked really good.
Yes.
Not blowing it up, but, like, making it crash. All that was I don't know, it was all really good.
I thought this is the best the series has looked thus far.
Yeah, and it's great that it looks that good, and it's got a script to follow it up with.
Yes.
You know, we've already talked theme a little bit. I really enjoyed all of the parallels with all of the familial relations. A lot of the time when you get something like this, when your main character is a male lead, you'll have like paralleling father and son stories, and you have that. But then you also have a mother-daughter one at the same time.
Right.
And I thought it was really nice that was in there. And this idea of people thinking, like trying to dupe themselves into thinking that their parents are perfect. And they know their parents can't possibly be perfect. But
I thought that was weird when Thea said that to Oliver, that you have this vision of mom being perfect. I don't think like he's come off that way at all. But I thought maybe it worked in the context when he says, mom would never cheat on dad. I thought maybe it worked there, but just that statement of you have this image of mom being perfect, I'm like, maybe it's just because I don't see her that way, but I never felt like Ollie saw her that way.
No, I mean, they've had quite a bit of friction in the show.
Right.
None of it has been anything that would lead to him thinking that she either was cheating on her husband or doing, the terrible terrorist plot she's actually involved with. By the way, with regards to the whole terrorist plot and everything, I like that we're inching closer and closer already. And I say already, we're 11 episodes in, but to Oliver and his sister figuring out what their mother is actually doing, because at the beginning, we kept complaining about how they were trying to make us really like the mother character while we knew that she was involved in some sort of terrible scheme. And I really appreciate that we're not now going to get to, like one climactic episode where it all comes together and suddenly she's evil.
Right. I thought the whole thing with them was really interesting. I don't know how I feel about her thinking that the mom is cheating. I was kind of hoping she would be a little bit more on the money last episode. I don't know if I feel like this is a cop-out. I think it's believable, but I was kind of hoping that she would be more leading towards what her mom's actually doing and not the cheating thing.
I bought it because of what they gave us in this episode, which is that she kind of thought that maybe there was a thing going on with them before even.
Right.
And so I'm glad that was built in there. Also,
and obviously it builds into the actual plot because she said this happened, right before, Dad died, and they were arguing,
and that he cheated on her all the time.
Well, the mom said that. We don't know if that's true.
We also don't know if Thea knew that.
Right, because she doesn't say that.
Oh, you're right. No, thanks for reminding me. You're right. Yeah, it is her that says that. Okay.
I'm really, really coming to like Thea.
I'm beginning to also. I think it's one of those things where certain writers know how to competently write people that age, and especially girls that age, and other ones don't. We've had 2 episodes now where somebody did.
Yes.
And that's what's helping it. I was still sympathetic toward her at the end, even when she took the drugs. Now, did it bother you that she so quickly resorted to that? Because it didn't me. Because I felt like it's been kind of built into her story where
it was set up.
To drugs a lot. Yeah. So
yeah,
I thought it was fine.
If it had come out of nowhere, I would have had an issue with it. But because it's set up, I liked it. And the thing is, at the end, is that what the episode's left with? Is her in the hospital getting taken away? Is that the last shot?
Mm-hmm. That's the last shot before we go to the island and we get the island reveal.
Oh, that's right. I loved that because I was racking my brain and trying to think. I'm like, okay, I can think of a lot of shows where I've seen people where they get in car crashes and they wreck their car and they were either, drunk or on drugs and the cops have never done anything. I was so taken aback. I'm like, well, I guess that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you run a drug, or a blood, toxicology on a car crash like that?
I gotta say, I wasn't looking at the timestamp or the clock when we went to commercial break, and when she got in the car crash. I thought the episode was over.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I knew it wasn't is because I watch on Hulu, and when it goes to episode break, it pops up like the bar.
Yeah, right. And I was really relieved that they didn't just leave us with the car crash, because what we're actually left with was infinitely more interesting. And also, there's kind of a fun parallel with, like the 4th or 5th episode that ends with Oliver getting taken away like that.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I immediately went back to episode 4 or 5.
So, are we assuming that the drug is what's going to lead us into their reinterpretation of Count Vertigo?
I am, because the next episode's called Vertigo.
Yeah, and I knew they were doing Count Vertigo on the show. So, right. I'm assuming that Count Vertigo is going to end up being somebody who's been running the streets with these drugs and probably will be on Oliver's list. I
like that. I mean, we haven't seen him yet, but I like the implication.
Yeah, works for me.
And jumping over, I liked Laurel and Tommy this episode.
I did too. Mm-hmm.
I really liked the dinner with Tommy's dad. I liked the whole reveal of the paperwork. I don't understand that. I don't know why he would need his dad's, or why he would need his son's, like, written approval. But that was probably one of the most emotional scenes we've had.
Yeah, that needed some explanation, but I think it doesn't immediately not work. It could be some sort of thing where she, like, gave her son rights to that for some reason, but they didn't really talk about it.
And part of it is that it kind of got me, because when he goes, if he doesn't mind, me mixing business with pleasure, I had like a split second where I'm like, oh, he's going to offer him like a real job.
That's what I thought. Or he's gonna give him his credit cards back.
Yeah, because he's seen that he can be a more responsible adult and things like that. Yeah, it got me. Like, it surprised me.
And I thought really maybe what they were doing at that point is trying to make us sympathetic toward him and like him at the same time as they're trying to make us like Oliver's mom, because there's definitely a bit of a parallel there. And they're still doing that to a degree where you got to the end of the episode. And again, like you said, the directing is really good in this episode. We've got this scene toward the end where Tommy is talking about how his dad doesn't give a crap about him and his family at all, and that dialogue is over his dad looking at a picture of his family. That's all really good stuff.
I have a theory about that scene. Okay. I think his dad might be Deathstroke or in some way tied to the island. Because
that would make a lot of sense, and also that would be a great payoff given all of the island footage that we're getting and the revelations that luckily finally we're getting this episode.
Well, what he starts that speech with is that his dad went away for like 2 years, and it pans over swords.
Oh, that's a great point. And that his dad went away for 2 years. That's probably where he went. I didn't think of that.
And then when his dad moves, I was actually expecting the Deathstroke costume to be behind him. And then it was the Dark Archer costume. But I think he's going to show up on the island. He's some way tied to the island, that whole thing.
I don't think he's Deathstroke since he's also the Dark Archer.
Right.
I mean, I think that's unlikely. But I think that he was on that island.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Well, let's talk about Diggle.
The actual plot of the episode.
Yeah. Let's talk about the major plot. Well, what's interesting is the A story is not as interesting as all of these other side stories.
I actually have some problems with the A story.
Okay, go ahead.
I have two. The first one is that they're the Blackhawks. Now, I don't know anything about the Blackhawks, but I'm pretty sure they're good guys. I felt
the
like
Blackhawks were good guys, but it could be that this guy just went rogue with it.
Maybe.
Like, maybe they weren't bad guys before, because, of course, Diggle worked with them, and Diggle really trusted the guy. So, I mean,
right.
I don't think the problem was with the Blackhawks. I think the problem was just with Gaynor.
Well, I was kind of disappointed just because he mentioned something about being part of the Blackhawks, and then in the war, and I was like, oh, that's a cool nod.
It is a cool nod,
And
and
then
the symbol was cool.
and then I like the idea that he was just saying, oh, we were part of the Blackhawks. I wish his organization wasn't called the Blackhawks.
Really?
I wish that was just a cool little nod, and maybe his organization was called something else.
Yeah, but I like it, because keep in mind that this show is doing a lot of reinventing DC Comics things to be in this more kind of grounded thing, and whether you think that's too Nolan or not, that's been kind of the trend for this show.
I just don't like making good guys bad guys.
No, I don't like making good guys bad guys either, but I like the idea of a modern day Blackhawks.
Yeah. My other issue is
as much as I like the idea of making Firefly a firefighter.
Yes, but I don't like Gaynor, the actor. I feel like they should have picked someone a little bit more charming. He kept coming off to me like Gary Busey in Lethal Weapon, and I was like,
thing.
I don't buy that this guy.
Do you know who that is?
No.
That's the guy who was the lead in Farscape.
Oh, okay. I never watched Farscape.
And remember that the guy that you told me last week, that the guy who, I'm saying the guy, I'm not looking at names right now, but the guy that wrote this episode, you told me wrote some Farscape.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
So that's probably why he's in this episode. Here's the thing.
Not knowing that, I wanted him to be more charismatic. I'm like, I don't buy that he leads this, or I don't buy that he leads an altruistic military operation. I only buy that he's a bad guy.
Yeah. What's weird about that is that I think that guy in Farscape is quite charming, and I think that since then, as he's gotten older, he's put on about 50 pounds.
Right.
So, I mean, that didn't help, and also the accent didn't help either. I wish he played it straighter. I wish he had just acted like he usually acts. I thought that might have been, as much as we're praising the directing, that might have been a directing problem, where they told him to have this accent and stuff. I don't know. I feel like 10 years ago, when Farscape was on, that guy was absolutely the right guy for that role. Because I've seen him in other stuff. Well, I've seen him in Farscape.
Well, just in this episode, not knowing who he was, I didn't buy for one of my problems was that they revealed that he's a bad guy. I was like, I would be more surprised if he wasn't. Like, just given the way television and film is now, I would be more surprised if he was in fact a good guy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was a little bit let down by that, because I thought that it was really predictable, and he did do a little bit of that 24 thing that you and I always complain about.
Once you find out, he just immediately turns bad.
He immediately acts bad. His mannerisms and everything change. Now, I mean, I get that he would put on an act for people, but the thing is, he obviously wasn't just like an evil, terrible person when he was working with Diggle before. He's changed because because he's come back to the States, and they've taken away a lot of his toys, basically. Right. And so now, he feels the need to steal stuff. I don't understand why he had to act like a supervillain. He didn't have to act like a supervillain.
It's not just that they took away his toys. I'm still not sure why they were stealing things. I thought it was very much and it's interesting because this continues my, this is an 80s TV show made today. I felt like he was a very standard Vietnam vet character who didn't know what to do with himself after he got out of the war.
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting that they chose to play it that way and use Afghanistan, and they specifically say Afghanistan. There are there is a DC Middle Eastern country they could have name dropped. It's very interesting that they specifically chose to say Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. I wish it was something other than just robbing armored trucks, because I never got what their end goal was, because they said this was supposed to be the last one. And I was like, why? What makes, I think it was 5. Like, what makes 5 so important? And why would you keep recruiting people if you only need like one more mission? So that seemed kind of weird, but I liked the idea of a man who used to be in the war, and now he doesn't know what his purpose is.
Yeah, he really struck me as the device they needed to tell the story they were telling, because they had a lot more interesting things to do with other characters, and so it doesn't bring down the episode. It's just, I wish they'd had more time to do something with that guy. and
It
not make it
does
so
lead to
generic.
Diggle's best moment.
Okay.
When he steps out of the way and they step out, they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You gave me a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher."
I love that.
I thought
That
that was
makes
great.
Gaynor a complete idiot, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
like, okay,
totally
so
does.
you're gonna hand this guy a weapon that's way better than anything you and your men are holding and trying to strong arm him into taking down an armored car just by holding a girl that he knows at gun. Well, a girl that knows, his sister-in-law at gunpoint. I did really like the idea that Gaynor before Diggle knows he's evil, because you and I are thinking, oh, this guy's probably evil.
Yeah.
But I liked that he was trying to get Diggle to date her.
Yeah, because they're old friends. He was playing the friend thing.
They're all, yeah, but this idea, because the thing is, he's not 100% wrong. It was kind of. It was kind of interesting because it's sort of a crass thing to do, right? Because Diggle's like, well, that's my sister-in-law, and the guy's like, well, not anymore.
Right.
He's dead.
Yeah.
And she likes you. And I was like, wow. I loved that it went there.
Yep.
This show is getting, I mean, the show's not generic right now. It's doing stuff. It's making me think a little bit, and I like that.
Well, and
there's
the
a
thing. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the thing that kind of is the backbone to all of this is him not trusting Ollie.
Yeah,
and
I
for
wanted to talk about that a
completely
little
valid
bit.
reasons.
Well, I don't completely agree with that. Diggle, well, okay, it's valid. I think he goes too far too fast. And maybe part of the problem is just that Gaynor ended up being played up as too generic and too obviously evil,
Right.
given that Diggle is willing before the credits to show up and hold Oliver as Green Arrow at gunpoint because he trusts Gaynor so much, regardless of the fact that he's on his father's list. I thought that Oliver had especially given the themes of the episode and what Oliver is learning about his parents all the time, I felt like Oliver had a really good thing that he ought to have argued immediately to Diggle when Diggle said, well, there's no way this guy that I used to work with could possibly be bad enough to be on your father's list. And Oliver's answer should have been, I didn't think my father was capable of this stuff either.
Right. Yeah.
But he was. His father was one of those terrible, corrupt people that would have been in the book. And
I didn't even think of that.
Tells Oliver, and he tells Oliver, right my wrongs. And Oliver should have almost been offended by this. Okay, so I have to accept the fact that my father was an evil, sadistic person up until his death. Maybe not evil and sadistic, but that he did all these awful things. But your friend that you used to work with that you haven't seen in a long time, he says he's talked to him some, but they haven't worked together in a long time.
Right.
Oh, he couldn't possibly be bad enough to be on the list. Also, I wanted to mention that as predictable, I'm of two minds about it. As predictable as it was that the guy did turn out to be, the bad guy and had to be, and that's why he was on the list. I don't think it would have worked the other way ultimately, because if there's anybody in that list that shouldn't be there, we can't trust the list anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, something about the list that I find really interesting that may tell us something that's either about to happen or will happen down the line is that he said that he saw a video that his father recorded for him not on the island.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
That tells him about the list.
Do you want to talk about the island stuff?
Yep, because the island stuff was really good this episode, and I'm glad that we got as much of it as we did, and there was such a payoff at the end.
Okay, I have a question about the payoff.
Go ahead.
Does it make any sense? Because
it does if the guy was just doing all that as an act.
See, I actually think it's the opposite. I think.
You think that he's double crossing the mercenaries.
I don't think I actually think it's playing out the same way this episode played out. I think that they might be threatening to kill Oliver if he doesn't join back up with them, or something. The other thing is that there might be a tell earlier in the episode, but I can't remember if this has happened before. The lead guy, which I think is Fies, something like that. he calls him Mr. Queen. Is that the first time any of them have referred to him by name?
No, when we saw him earlier in the season, and I've got to go back and rewatch all this because the island stuff has been so few and far between. I'm having a hard time remembering all of it. But early on, when they talk, I think that Oliver tells him his name.
Oh, okay.
I think, but again, it's been a long time. I don't remember. But
I thought that was the first time
they've been on. That's not the first time they've been on screen together.
No, but I thought it was the first time he called him he referred to him by name. I thought maybe the Asian guy told him or something like that. I just thought that was
maybe
weird.
There's that too. I don't remember, honestly. I'm having a hard time talking about the island stuff. I need to rewatch those parts.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about the ending. I'm interested to see where it goes, but I was kind of like, was he lying? Because like why would it all be an act? Like unless this is all somehow tied into his dad. Which I didn't really get the impression of before, but like it just seemed weird that he would already have this like cave set up and all of that.
Well, I'm getting the impression that, well, maybe I'm totally off base here, but the more we're getting of that, I'm starting to kind of get the impression that maybe the ship was supposed to crash there.
Oh, maybe.
And that maybe they were waiting for him.
What if the entire island thing is set up to train Oliver to be able to go fight, in the city?
I think there's more than that going on.
I hope so, but
because
I'm just. Oh, speaking of,
because clearly because if it is, it's too League of Shadows, and then we got a lot more stuff people can complain about with them ripping off Nolan. So we don't want it to be exactly that. But I also get the sense that they're, I don't know. I'm not getting the impression that he is not their enemy. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I have two. I have two very minor nitpicks with this episode. One of which is actually the entire series. I've just never mentioned it until now. Their news font is the most unrealistic news font I've ever seen.
News font? What do you mean?
Whenever it cuts to the news and like the font that's like breaking news, like with the text on the bottom of the news, is the most like ridiculous, doesn't look like a real news station at all news font.
I never thought about that. That's really yeah. It does look a little bit like small town local, right? Like
yeah, or like what I would see in like a student film. Like it doesn't look like a real news station. The other thing is that Diggle refers to their arrow cave as the arrow cave.
Yeah, but I love that.
Hold on, because I have an issue with it. Because
what?
It doesn't look like a cave. So that means one of two things. Either Batman exists in this universe, and everyone knows he has a Batcave.
And they're referencing DC Comics.
Yes.
Okay, you win. That is kind of a problem, but I still love that they name dropped it.
I know. I'm really hoping the aeroplane comes up some point.
I was gonna say you are the biggest supporter of the Arrow Cave, and you're complaining that they finally.
I'm not a supporter of the Arrow Cave. I'm a supporter of the aeroplane. I just wanted to have an aeroplane.
Oh, I thought you liked the Arrow Cave.
I do like the Arrow Cave, but I only like the Arrow Cave in the context of DC Comics, where it is literally just a ripoff of the Batcave.
Yeah, because that's really funny. No, but that's a really good point. I hadn't thought, and I should have thought of that. It's like, well, you are. It's sticky because they've already used a Batman villain.
Yeah.
So, because Firefly is pretty much a Batman
They've used two,
villain.
Firefly and Deadshot.
Yeah, and I mean they've used some other things that have crossed over, of course.
Oh, and Huntress.
And Huntress. Yeah, they're using a lot of Batman stuff.
And have we gotten a reference to Gotham? I don't think we have.
Don't think we have, or Bloodhaven.
I feel like we did get a reference. I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode. But I feel like we got a reference to another DC city, but I can't remember which one.
We have, but yeah, it's not occurring to me right now either. Well, anyway,
it might have been Coast City.
I think this was solid.
No, this was a good episode. I don't know if I liked it as well. See, I feel like I liked the Firefly stuff last episode more than this stuff, more than the Blackhawk stuff. But I feel like the character stuff this episode was better than the character stuff last episode. And what I like most about this episode that I didn't completely get last episode is I feel like this episode is moving the series storyline forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like the last episode, they felt like they needed to take a bit of a breather and be really somber after what happened the episode previous, which I really appreciated.
Right. But yeah,
So
I thought this was a good episode.
I hope they're really finding a stride again. And if this ends up being the last couple of episodes, if this ends up being the tone for the rest of the series, this thing's got legs maybe.
Absolutely. If it keeps with this, I'm down for it. The only thing I want is it to be a little bit more comic booky in the costumes. I mean, you've got Green Arrow full blown, you've got Deathstroke full blown. I kind of want
you had Huntress kind of full blown.
Yeah, I kind of want, moving forward, I want the villains to be a bit more theatrical looking. That's really all it is. I can guarantee you I'm not going to get Count Vertigo with the big collared cape.
Not unless he ends up doing some sort of like magician act thing, or they do that thing where like they have some reason for him to wear it, but not when he's being a villain.
Or they could do the Doctor Doom Fantastic Four movie thing where he only puts it on when he's being a villain for no explainable reason.
Whatsoever, even though nobody would care what his secret identity was.
But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. The series is definitely, I think the second half, or the starting of the second half has been really strong so far. 2 episodes in, I think maybe the series is really finding its feet. I'm optimistic.
I am too.
I'm probably as optimistic as I was when we saw 4 and 5.
Yeah, me too.
I'm back to that point. So yeah.
Yeah, I love to have like more of a reason to do the show than just, well, we started it. I want to be excited about doing this, you know.
One other quick thing, because apparently this was the episode I decided to start paying attention to the credits. In the credits it said "and Paul Blackthorne." Now, first of all, I want to know what stipulates an "and." Like is he like the biggest name actor on the show and that's why he gets an "and"? But the other thing was it said "and Paul Blackthorne" and he's not in this episode.
Oh, he's not, is he? But it's probably one of those things that since they don't have an opening credits, their main cast, like if they're in a certain amount of episodes, they have to credit them even if they're not there.
Oh, maybe.
You know what I mean? Because usually when you have like opening credit, that's what's so sticky about not having an opening credit sequence. Is that usually, like, you know, for instance, like Smallville, you have a lot of episodes where Lionel Luthor wasn't there, but if he was in a certain number of episodes, he was in the opening titles.
Which made sense in the opening titles, but in the actual credits in the series, it looks weird.
Especially if it's an "and", because you're just sort of looking for him. Is he not in it? No, you know what? He is in one scene.
Is he?
We see him on the news.
Okay, I'm not remembering that,
I think.
Okay.
Well, see, I don't. Now I'm not. See, now I'm not confident. I thought we saw like a shot of him doing something.
Maybe we get like a quick you know, we're trying to find the bank robbers type of a thing.
That's what I thought, but see, now I'm not entirely positive. I thought for sure we saw him for at least a few frames.
Okay, well, I guess that constitutes an "and".
Well, anyway.
Thank you for joining us for Arrow Discussions, and we will see you next week.
What? No, you have to say I'm Captain Logan.
Oh, I'm Captain Logan.
And you're Eric. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.